Hey everyone, Nicole here, your friendly neighborhood yoga therapist. We're here to help you fix that pose and find ways for your yoga practice to fit your body as it is. Remember, yoga is a practice of presence, not performance. You do not need a better body. You need a practice that works for you. So let's get started. First, let's talk just about the ground underneath you, the foundation. So, child's pose can be hard on the knees. I often recommend that people double up their mat or grab a yoga blanket or even a bath towel, something to create physical padding underneath your knees so that you can be in the pose comfortably for a little longer. Next, we want to talk about the width of the knees. So there's several vectors in child's pose that we can adjust for. One is the width of the knees. In child's pose, you can have the knees anywhere from all the way together to way wide apart and anything in between, depending on what works for you. Each position in terms of width changes the way that the tissues open up on the knees. So the demand of that stretch on the knees and quads changes depending on the width that you've got going. Okay. And this is super individual. So you're going to have to experiment for yourself the width of the knees. That's the first thing to experiment with. Second place to experiment is, of course, how deeply the hips can go back toward the heels. Most people have a stopping point, okay? Not everybody can comfortably get their hips back toward the heels, nor should you think that that needs to be any type of goal, all right? So if from injury or age or surgery or just muscular tension, maybe you can't go very far back, that's fine. Find your natural stopping point, which again is going to be determined also by how wide or narrow your knees are. Find your natural stopping point, and if there's a gap, fill it up. Fill it up with a prop of some kind, maybe a rolled blanket, maybe a yoga bolster or a couch cushion, something to create a backstop that you can rest against so that you're not worried about bending too deeply. Okay? If your knees are such that even a prop behind you doesn't work, maybe your knees hardly bend at all, no problem. Leave your hips more vertical, a little bit more up and down above the knees, and just drop your upper body down. You can rest on your forearms. You can rest with your head on a block or two or on a cushion and just use this as your version of child's pose. Okay? Totally acceptable. We're getting a little bit of hinge at the knee. We're getting a little bit of hinge at the hip. We're getting some length and softness through the low back, and we're resting the weight of the upper body down. So then let's talk about where to put the arms, neck, and head. Depending on where you have your knees and how far you're sitting back is going to influence the choices you have with your shoulders, neck, and head. So let's go through some basics. Possibility number one is to have the arms resting back by your feet. Usually we do this with the backs of the hands on the ground. Sometimes people gently hold the feet if that's a natural place for you to reach. Second is to have the arms gently out in front, restful, maybe even head resting on the stacked hands. That's a personal favorite of mine. In general, it's nice to keep the neck straight here, meaning face pointing toward the floor in child's pose. Okay.
Other option is to have the arms a little more ahead of you, but still restful, elbows down. So those are three kind of what I would call passive positions for the arms, either back by your side, somewhere gently near the head or under the head, or maybe a little gently forward. Next, we might use an active position of the arms, where the arms are actively stretched out in front, fingers spread wide, elbows lifted. Okay, that is an active position of the arms. It gives a good stretch for the shoulders. One little thing you want to make sure that you're doing here is lift your armpits so that your shoulder blades can kind of come onto your back. This will keep pressure out of the neck so that you're not squishing, feeling like you're squishing the neck. Okay. Personally, I always love a restful shape. That tends to be my default, but it depends on else you're doing in your practice. If you're in a type of a flow class type of a setting, you may kind of be in between movements where you want to stay active. So this is really dependent on the context of the other things that you're doing. Next, we can talk about a fully supported, more of like a restorative child's pose, where you bring in some props to stay for specifically for this pose for a longer period of time. So again, maybe your knees are closer or wider apart. Maybe you've got padding so that you can tolerate being here long enough. And maybe you've got some other type of support, like a bolster or a stack of cushions or blankets where you could come down and rest. And this is where turning your head to the side can make sense. All right, it's a little bit more snuggly and restful, but you could also still put your forehead down on your support, maybe even the hands there, but getting a little bit more cushioning underneath you gives some feedback and restfulness to the front body, helps you hang out and be able to spend time and breathe. Restorative versions of child's pose are going to help you spend time breathing deeply into the hips and the low back, relaxing the muscles along the spine, and really settling in. With the right support, child's pose can be so restful and therapeutic, but you want to make sure that it's tailored to you. A reminder that just because you're modifying a pose doesn't mean that it's remedial. Yoga is meant to be refined and tailored to you and your body. Let me know if these suggestions were helpful. I'd love to know how it goes for you. You can always ask more questions or leave your comments below. Take good care. Thanks for practicing.